Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of Podcasa Bonita in the new year. I'm Rachel, and my New Year's resolution is to watch more South Park.
And I'm Shirley, and I want to smash 2016 with a sledgehammer.
Don't we all?
So, welcome to the new year, and welcome to Podcasta Bonita. Ending up on the same day. Coincidence?
Right.
Yeah, it is. It's just a coincidence.
Yeah, we're going to kick off 2017 with Podcasta Bonita. That's how you know it's going to be a good year.
Yep. We're making it a good year. We're starting off the year strong.
All
right. But instead of starting off the year strong, Matt and Trey did not start off this season 9 very strong because we're going to talk a lot about this first episode. We're just going to hop right into it with Mr. Garrison's fancy new vagina.
Aired March 9th, 2005.
Mr. Garrison gets a sex change operation, but when he realizes he is incapable of having a period and that his boyfriend is dismayed of the sex change, he tracks down the doctor to change him back. Meanwhile, Kyle goes to a plastic surgeon to turn himself black so he can become a basketball player.
Alright, this probably isn't a mystery, but me and Shirley don't like this episode.
along with a big chunk of the South Park fandom, we really don't like this episode.
For good reason, too, honestly.
There is a post on Tumblr a while ago, of everybody reblogging, their least favorite South Park episode, and this was at the top of the list.
Yeah, so many people said this one.
We're gonna go into detail why. I'm the kind of fan and person who I'm like, yeah, you can make fun of everything, but you have to go about it the right way.
Exactly.
I don't think they went about this the right way at all. And this episode is extremely. I'm just gonna say it's so transphobic.
Yeah.
So I'm not even gonna hide it. I'm a huge diehard fan, but if somebody points to this episode and says, "Hey, this is wrong," I'm not gonna argue. It's pretty shitty.
I totally agree. And South Park has done a lot of things right, but handling Mr. Garrison's sex change is not one of them. That's always been a really messy storyline, and they've kind of done a shitty job with it. And this is just the beginning of that, so it's not fun to watch.
It's really not fun to watch because I'm kind of gonna say it. I don't know, but I don't think this episode comes from a place of malice. I think it just comes from a place of ignorance and just kind of, it's a cheap joke.
Right.
It's cheap. It's kind of on the same level of, making fun of a handicapped person with, just doing stupid, cheap, lowbrow jokes.
Yeah.
And instead of, going about it the right way and maybe making it satirical. I don't really see any satire.
Not even just the right way, the smart way too. South Park has always been so smart, and this episode is just such easy cheap shots. It is just not funny.
Exactly. It's pretty annoying. I had a tough time going through this episode because before when I watched it years ago, I didn't really like it, but I kind of didn't understand it, and then I was educated on the trans community and everything a little bit more, and I watched this. I'm like, oh, this is rough. This is good. So,
this episode is just kind of confusing to me, honestly. The message doesn't really come across well. I'm not sure what they're trying to say. Sheila's speech to Kyle about trans people at the beginning is really sweet and really a good message, but then the rest of the episode seems to contradict that completely. So I really don't know what Matt and Trey are trying to say with this one. I hope it's not. I hope that their intention wasn't to be transphobic and mean, but that's kind of how it came across.
That's kind of how it came across, and that might have been their intention. But since then, I do believe their views have changed at least somewhat, because I'm not gonna say because of the episode The Sissy in season 18, I'm not gonna say oh, that makes everything okay. They did that episode, so that makes this episode okay. It's not. I just think it kind of shows a growth.
Yeah, I agree.
In them, and because that episode was really smart.
Yeah, that was a good trans episode.
Really well, even if they said at the end okay, we don't necessarily understand it. It was still like an okay episode. I feel like I just kind of honestly feel like this episode in particular just is too lowbrow and too cheap, and I don't know. It's like an easy joke to make, and it's not a very funny one.
Yeah, I totally agree, because, like I said, the show has always been about being really smart and having good things to say while being funny, and this had none of that. It was just being like, oh, look at how gross and weird trans people are.
They still, like, even today, they still kind of have, like, their off moments where I'm like, oh, it's a little, you know, rough with, like, Caitlyn Jenner's design and everything, like, physical appearance, but I can kind of let that one slide a little bit more, but I remember this episode, I'm like, oh, God, take one step forward and 2 steps back.
I know, like, every single South Park fan that I know, like, hates this episode, which is kind of nice.
Yeah,
we're all united.
The people who are, the thing is, like, I know the people who are transphobic love this episode. If they casually watch South Park or they're big fans and they're transphobic, they're gonna love this episode. So
it kind of says something, doesn't it?
Yeah, which is funny because later in this season there is an episode that's extremely like pro-gay, you know, and I'm like, that's still part of the LGBT community, dude. Like trans people, and you know, they're part of the same, you know.
Yeah, like you have to accept them all. You can't just cherry pick which people in the LGBT community you want to accept.
Matt and Trey are TERFs, it's confirmed. Oh my gosh, but I feel like we've talked about this way too much. We started off too angry, and I promise the rest of this episode is
we love the rest of the season, so.
The rest of this season is, I love this season, besides that one episode. So we'll move on to Die Hippie Die.
Aired March 16th, 2005.
It's up to Cartman to save the day when hippies overrun South Park and no one listens to his warnings.
That's all it says.
That's all it says. I mean, that's all you kind of need to know.
Yeah, true. This episode's super funny, though.
Oh, yeah. I think this one, it was so great watching this one after Mr. Garrison one, because I was so bummed after watching that. Then this one plays. I'm like, oh, I love this one.
Yeah. I love it. The episode starts off so strong too, because I love the scene where Cartman's like going like door to door hunting hippies in people's attics and shit, and like he's the hippie exterminator.
I love the flashback with Sharon and Randy at Woodstock. Me too. Like that's like really funny, and I don't know. I love that scene. It's kind of cool.
Right, where they're like
for the adults, kind of like. We get to see their backstory.
Yeah, they're like partying and like
not much of a backstory.
That's the scene where they're like partying and like throwing up while they're like hippies and they're like at some concert and they're like partying and throwing up and then slipping in their own throw up and then laughing about it.
It's so funny.
I love that scene.
I love how, you know, to this day, like I'm certain they're out there. Like I know they're out there, but I don't know a hippie any younger, like I don't know any hippie like my age. I'm pretty sure like hippies are going extinct, so I think Cartman is doing...
Yeah, Cartman. Thanks, Cartman. Like, I don't know, it's so weird, because, like, you have this stereotypical image of what, like, hippies look like, and I don't think I've ever met anyone like that. I have met people who are like, oh, why can't we all just get along and peace and love? I know people like that, but, like, I don't know anyone who's, like, a quote-unquote hippie, you know?
See, I'm kind of like that, but that's just what being a pacifist is. So, but I know a lot of potheads, but I've kind of never seen the two mixed together, so.
Yeah, I don't really have anything against hippies, but this is a good episode critiquing them. I particularly liked Stan, Kyle, and Kenny involved in the hippie movement because they are actually the ones who are saying, okay, but what are we going to do about this problem? And all the hippies are like, yeah, let's just smoke weed. So I like that the boys want to take action, and it kind of shows that hippies don't want to do that necessarily.
See, it kind of reminds me of, like, white feminism and everything, where it's like, okay, so are you going to speak out on, you know, rape or around rape culture? And they're like, well, no bra day.
Yeah.
No bra day. I'm like, shut up.
I know.
Like, speak on real problems, please. Like,
or even just, like, being anyone supporting anything, but not doing anything about it. Even just, like, I don't know, being a dude and being like, oh, yeah, I think women are equal, but you never stick up for women who are being discriminated against. That's just, like, what are you doing? You don't support women at all.
For real. I think this, This episode is kind of like a palate cleanser. It's a palate cleanser episode. It's really fun. It doesn't really have, like, a huge moral, like, we're kind of reaching, I think, for its moral, but,
it's more it's just Matt and Trey laughing at hippies, really.
Really, for real.
Although,
it's so fun. Oh my gosh, I lose my shit every time they, like, just start drilling through the crowd people. Like, I think that's so funny.
My favorite scene is at the end where Cartman forces Kyle to watch him play with that, like, little bulldozer toy. And then Kyle can't play with it.
Oh, that's so Cartman. Okay, well, I think we're going to move on to Wing.
Aired March 23rd, 2005.
Token becomes a singer while the boys try and run a talent agency and represent the city walk owner's wife.
This episode wasn't that good. I'm not gonna lie.
What?
I didn't like it that much.
I liked this episode.
The only thing I really have to say is that I was
favorite.
really like shocked to figure out that Wing was like a real person. I never knew that before.
What? No, they even say like in the intro, it's like special guest star.
I know. I probably forgot. But...
She's a real person. I think I looked her up once. I haven't looked her up recently and everything, but
I looked her up after I watched the episode. Her website was taken down.
I don't really know her backstory. I just know she just kind of sings, and she was on an episode of South Park. That's it.
Well, I listened to Matt and Trey's commentary on this episode, and apparently they were like fans of her, I guess, and she recorded some stuff for them to use for her, and she was like super stoked on this episode because they got a lot of publicity, and like her one thing was that she like wanted to approve her character design because she was afraid she was gonna look bad.
Yeah, she's like, don't make my character look ugly.
Right.
So I think that's awesome. I love it when I love how they like went from having guest stars like Jennifer Aniston and like the whole group Korn to like it's like we're just gonna have this obscure.
We're gonna have Wing.
We're gonna have Wing and the chick from Species. Like,
yeah, it's because all the celebrities hate them now.
Exactly. At this point, like everybody's afraid. Everybody's afraid. Like Mel Gibson had just been ripped on. It hasn't happened yet, but later on. Tom Cruise is going to be ripped on. That's later in this episode, and I'm so excited to talk about that one. So, I like this episode. And for some reason, like, this always, like, catches me off guard. For some reason, like, the boys, like, are excited because they have, like, Wing get a job and everything. They have her get a gig, and all of a sudden they start, like, saying, "Who let the dogs out?" Like, what year is it, guys? This was 2005? Why are they all of a sudden... that confuses me so much. I don't know why. But I also love when they're all like... when Cartman gets like the automatic rifle and just like shoots everybody. Like that's...
Yeah.
I don't know. I love the violence stuff. Isn't that terrible?
I thought it was funny how, like, this episode started with them wanting to represent Token because he's such a great singer, but, like, I know that from the Lion episode, that Token's, like, a sucky singer, so, like, what happened?
Yeah, they actually just sped up a pageant song and everything. Like, they pitched it.
Token must have taken singing classes or something.
Yeah.
I think my favorite line of the whole episode, though, was, like, at the beginning when Token's singing, and then Mrs. Garrison is like, oh, like, seeing a black man sing just makes me wet. Miss Victoria's like, Mrs. Garrison, for the love of God.
Oh, that's so funny. But I think we should move on to the Emmy Award-winning episode.
Oh, yeah. All right. Best Friends Forever aired March 30th, 2005.
Oh, yeah, I forgot to read the title. Kenny is left in a persistent vegetative state, beginning a war between Cartman, who wants him to die so he can inherit his Sony PSP, Heaven, who needs his spirit to fight a war against Hell, and those who feel he should be kept alive. This episode won a 2005 Emmy Award in the category of Outstanding Animated Program for programming less than 1 hour. I don't know what number like Emmy this is. I know they had been nominated before. I don't think this is their first Emmy that they won, but it's one of their like most noted Emmy winning episodes because it talked about the what's her name?
Terry Schiavo.
Terry Schiavo. It's that I was really little at the time, so I don't remember the Terry Schiavo case. But yeah, like I did my research and I'm like, God damn, this is literally just the Terry Schiavo case with South Park characters.
Yeah.
Like, that's all it is.
Mm-hmm. It's a good example of the show being really timely, because this episode aired, like, 2 days before she died or something.
I know, which really sucks. They were actually worried, like, oh shit, what if, like, the day we air it, she dies?
That would be a bummer.
It was made at the point where her feeding tube was removed, and so everybody's just waiting for her to basically die. And I like how this episode, it kind of isn't like a cop-out, but they, like, I don't consider it a cop-out at least, but they, talk about, like, well, maybe she doesn't want you to, publicize all this, Maybe she wants this not to be, like, a secret or anything.
I like the ending, because it didn't take, like, because there are the two sides of it, and then there's, like, Stan and Kyle on one side and Cartman on one side, and usually, like, it makes you think that they're going to pick a side, but it kind of introduces a whole new point, saying, like, maybe you shouldn't be airing this whole thing on TV and, like, humiliating this woman and everything, and that's a pretty good point.
That's what I was trying to say, but I don't know how to word things well.
Alright, Shirley, I have a question for you. My question is, do you get the Keanu Reeves thing in this episode? Because I totally don't.
Oh, I kind of do.
Okay, what is it?
I can't place the exact movie, but, like, it's kind of mocking, like, you're the chosen one sort of trope
Okay.
And everything. And he was in, like, a movie that kind of, or a few, that kind of...
Yeah, I'm
like,
sure it probably just came out when this movie.
You need to lead us, and you need to do this, and you're so cool, and...
Yeah.
It was just kind of mocking that trope that he's kind of cast in.
Yeah, no, yeah, I kind of got that, but I was just wondering if it was, like, a specific role that Keanu was in, like, around the time, because they were, like, so specific with the Keanu Reeves thing, especially at the end when, like, he got a Keanu Reeves statue for killing Hell or whatever.
See, I can't place the exact, like, movie, so maybe somebody who's listening, maybe, like, the 5 of you who listen might know.
I can easily just Google this, I'm just too lazy.
Yep, but I think that was a good episode.
Yeah. Oh, well, a little tidbit is that I love the part where, the lawyer is reading Kenny's will, and he goes, in the will it says, in the highly likely event of my death. That just made me laugh super hard.
I love how, like, that doesn't really faze them or anything.
Right.
Again, like, I try not to be, like, that crazy canonical fan and everything, where it's...
I totally am, though.
I am. Oh, yeah. I'm like, well, in season 5, Cartman played this...
That's totally me.
We're basically those two nerds that, like, made Timmy's wheelchair.
Oh, yeah, that's us, but with South Park.
We're the Star Wars geeks, or Star Trek geeks. But anyway, enough of us rambling. Let's go on to The Losing Edge.
Aired April 6, 2005.
The boys try to lose their baseball games on purpose so they can avoid having to play all summer. Unfortunately, they are not able to lose and form a plan so that they will not have to play all summer long. Randy gets into training to fight the other fathers at the game. The movie Rocky is parodied in select scenes. Okay. Also, The Karate Kid is parodied in the song You're the Best by Joe Esposito. Inspires Randy to fight the Bat Dad. I don't know why. That was, like, really specific.
Yeah, now what are we going to talk about?
Darn, well, I guess we can move on then.
I usually don't like Randy subplots that much, but this one's, like, super funny. Like, I love when he's getting hauled off, he's like, I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
Okay, yeah, I think this is, like, the perfect use of Randy. Like, this season actually has a very good use of Randy.
Yeah.
From, like, 2 days before the day after tomorrow, and Bloody Mary, like, it's just, Randy's used really well. Like, his storylines are funny, but they don't overdo it.
Yeah.
Like, it's another little subplot. It's not the main plot.
Right. Like, when Randy's used like this, I like him a lot. But in the more recent seasons, they use him all the time, and now I, like, don't like him as much as I used to.
I love how he has to, like, train and everything.
Yeah.
I love it when he starts singing to himself, like, you're the best!
Oh, yeah.
His pants are falling down, he's fighting the Bat Dad. Like, that's so funny.
That's so Randy.
Oh, but the best part, hands down, the best part about this episode is, I'm big!
Yes! Oh, God, I fucking love Cousin Kyle.
I love Kyle.
Me too.
I love his character. He's probably my favorite recurring character.
I love Kyle.
After, like, Mr. gosh,
Yeah.
I love Kyle Schwartz.
I know, I was so happy with his return. He really is great at sucking. I still felt so bad because he was so pumped to win the game and they didn't win.
He was so happy. Oh my gosh. But, yeah, I had a point to make about this episode.
Alright, I'll talk while you're thinking. This episode kind of made me remember being a kid and, like, only doing certain, like, activities and sports because your parents forced you to. And, like, really takes you back. I love being young enough that I can still remember being a kid and relate to the boys.
I remember what I was going to compare it to. Like,
Okay.
It's not just, like, the dads arguing at, like, baseball games. Okay, when I was little, my friend used to, like, she was, like, 6 or 7 at the time, but I still remember this. She used to, like, her mom would, like, force her into, like, cheerleading competitions. She was, like, 6. You don't really cheerlead, and, you don't really cheerlead when you're 6. It's just, like, just for show. It's like a child beauty pageant. You just do splits. But, like, moms get extremely, like, competitive. Like, I remember, it wasn't her mom, but there were, like, 2 moms, like, arguing. I don't remember over what, but they were, like, losing their shit over cheerleading. So it's not just the dads at,
it was a bad mom.
It's moms at competition cheerleading, too.
Even, like, soccer moms, too. Like.
Oh, my gosh, soccer moms are crazy. But, yeah, that's kind of all I have to say for that episode.
Oh, and I love the fact that, like, Matt and Trey only made this episode because they thought the boys would be cute in baseball outfits. And they were right.
That's the best. I love it. They also did, like, last season, they did, the preschool episode just because they wanted to see what they'd be like when they were little.
Right.
So, those are the best episodes. And I'm ready to move on. This is my favorite episode.
Okay.
Of the season. Death of Eric Cartman.
Aired April 13th, 2005.
Hold on, I lost my place. Okay, the kids of South Park retaliate against Cartman by ignoring him after he eats all the skin off the chicken Kyle, Kenny, and Stan were going to eat, causing Cartman to think that he has died. With the help of Butters, who is the only one that can see him, Cartman tries to atone his sins on Earth, for he cannot go to the afterlife without doing so. I love this episode. I don't think it gets enough credit for being, like, one of the best.
Yeah, this is a good one. I love that the KFC chicken incident is, like, what finally pushes the other boys over the edge. Like, it was the final straw. Cartman went too far.
The thing is, like, it took them a long time to, it took them a while to, find out what the bad thing that he was doing. They were trying to think of the worst thing, that he could do and everything, and it just turned out to be, like, they're like, oh, well, we'll just make it simple. Like,
right. I mean, they were right.
They all had, like, chicken in the writer's room, and one of the writers was just like, what if somebody came and, like, took all the crispy skin off the chicken? Like, how would you guys react? And they're like, oh, shit, that's what we're gonna do.
I mean, it's not a bad idea. Like, I would be pissed if someone did that to me.
For real. Like, I'd be super mad. Oh, man. But, I think this episode's, like, so, like, clever.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel like a storyline like this has kind of been done, I guess, where I don't know, people think that they're invisible or whatever, but I love this episode. Like, I love the Make It Right song.
Yeah, me too.
I think this is one of, like, the best instances of Butters and Cartman, like, interacting.
Yeah.
I feel bad for Butters in this episode.
Totally. Right. This episode's so funny because Cartman's, like, just so up his own ass that he can't, like, imagine that the other kids just don't like him, so he just assumes he's dead, like, right away.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I just kind of love how everything falls into place. Like, they have, like, the toilet and everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, so full of chicken skins, the inside's just, like, busted out.
Yeah, and then his mom is getting banged on the inside, like, getting fucked on the inside of the house. It sounds like she's crying.
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. It is so funny. I love this episode. I don't think it gets enough credit because I think it's so well written, and it's not, like, political or anything. It's one of those episodes that everybody loves where the boys are, it's kind of like the boys are just being boys, but Cartman's being stupid. Like,
right.
It's great. It's no, like, big political message. It's no, not like current events or anything. It's just a basic story, and those are some of the best episodes. So, and I think we can move on to Erection Day.
Aired April 20th, 2005.
Jimmy starts getting erections and worries about performing in the school talent show, so he sets out to get rid of his erections by having sex with a woman. That woman being the infamous nut gobbler. Oh my god. Like, that, to me, that's the best part of the storyline, is any part where the nut gobbler is talking. Like, she's really funny. I don't know, this isn't my favorite episode, but I still like it.
Yeah. I've noticed a pattern throughout the show that Jimmy often has, like, really funny adventures with hookers. First it was Nut Gobbler, and then it was... What's the one from season 19? The
Classy.
hooker. Yeah, with the peanut. Yeah, with the penis in her name.
Actually, it's a dick.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad they did it with Jimmy, because I couldn't place any other boy, like, with
I agree.
this storyline. Like, I couldn't imagine, like, I don't know, I guess I kind of see, like, the main four as actual kids, except for, like, Eric. I'm like, that would never work for Cartman. Kenny wouldn't be so naive about this.
Right.
Kyle, I don't think would even have this problem, neither would Stan. And I'm like, I think Jimmy's, like, the only boy who could kind of, like, get away with this storyline.
Yeah, I think you're right. And
I don't question it for some reason.
Because I was kind of bummed out watching this episode, because I'm not a huge fan of Jimmy. I think he's kind of annoying, if we're being honest. But I do think he was, like, the best character they could have done for this kind of storyline. Because, like, and I think the reason that we buy it so much is, like, Jimmy and Timmy, too, always have, like, such a hardcore storylines together, and they deal with, like, really raw shit. So, I still, like, Jimmy, like, lost his virginity at 8 years old. I didn't even question it. I'm like, oh, right, that happened.
Yeah, for real. It did not make me question, like, anything at all. Like, at all. Like, I just...
Right.
I think Jimmy's the only one who can get away. Like, I'm trying to think of other characters, and it just doesn't work, you know? But yeah, I don't really have too much to say about it, you know, like, I can't really relate to Jimmy's problem, but I'm sure a lot of prepubescent boys.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
And I love how he thinks, like, you can't see whenever he has an erection, but he totally, like, thinks it's so noticeable.
I love the dream that he has about the talent show where and his penis just keeps getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah. I guess girls, I guess, like, prepubescent girls can kind of relate to this, I guess, with, like, periods and everything. You always think you're gonna, like, people like, oh, people can smell me, or people can see.
Yeah, you always can, yeah.
So I guess I can kind of relate to it, yeah.
Yeah.
But I can't, like, go and hire a hooker to fix my problem.
No,
or maybe,
no.
I don't know.
Give it a shot. Alright, wanna go to the next one?
Yeah, let's, 2 days before the day after tomorrow.
Aired October 19th, 2005, which is Trey Parker's birthday.
Yep, and it's so sad that we knew that, like, instantly.
Yeah, as soon as she read the date to me, I was like, oh, it's Trey's birthday.
Stan and Cartman crash a speedboat into a dam, flooding the neighborhood town of Beaverton. Since neither of the boys admits what they've done, since neither of the boys admit what they've done, people blame everything from the president to global warming for the disaster. They spend so much time trying to assign blame that they have no time to help the citizens of Beaverton.
God, why is Wikipedia so long?
I have no idea. Well, it's not really that long. I'm just, you know, I'm incompetent and can't read.
God, why is Shirley so incompetent?
But, oh my gosh, so I'm kind of going to go back to Mr. Garrison's Fancy Vagina. Like,
okay.
Unlike that episode, this episode, like, it has, you know, a topic that, like, global warming, for example, like, that I don't know how to word it, but, like, I support, I recognize global warming as, like, an actual thing, and but this episode I still like it because it's really funny, even though it, like, mocks kind of that standpoint and everything, and I just think it's so funny because I like how they treated it. It's like, oh my god, it's global warming, like, it's gonna happen instantly and all that, like this is the kind of instance where I can laugh about it, you know. It's done in a point where I'm like, okay, I don't feel like it's vicious or, you know, really in poor taste. I think it's just funny, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is a really smart episode, kind of like the Terry Schiavo thing, where it's like taking a third stance. Because, like, I don't really think it's. It kind of is, but it's not really like ripping at people who believe in global warming. It's not saying it exists or it doesn't. In my opinion, I think it's kind of making fun of people who just want to blame everything on global warming and say like it's gonna happen right now. Global warming is at the fault of this, and like that. I think that's what they're making fun of in this episode.
Yeah, they make fun of global warming later in next season, but actually, like, that's Man Bear Pig is my favorite episode. Like, I think that might be my favorite episode, but so, like, I can kind of enjoy, like, in this instance where it's, like, handled really well, I can laugh at my own, like, political side and everything. You know, I can laugh about it. I also like you were saying, like, I like how they kind of, you know, show the people who want to blame everybody. And, you know, people try really hard to assign blame to things where it's like, shit just happens. You know, stop trying to blame people for things like Hurricane Katrina. Like, shit happens. It's also kind of like the Captain Hindsight sort of thing. Like the 2020 was like, well, they shouldn't have built a you know, a whole town underneath a giant beaver dam. That's stupid. So I'm like, maybe Captain Hindsight could have been introduced in this episode. That would have been funny.
Right. I also really love the satire on like. Journalists and reporters in this episode, like with like the cannibalism and raping thing, and he's like, and the reporter's like, no, we actually haven't seen it, we're just reporting it.
Exactly, yeah. But yeah, I like this episode. I feel like this one could have easily like won an Emmy because it was so, you know, I feel like this was like Emmy fodder, you know. But I don't really have much else to say. I have
a little bit. I love the part where Cartman like walks up to Stan and Kyle where they're like in the what is it, like the community center or whatever, and he's like, oh god damn it, you told Kyle, didn't you? And I just love the fact that like Stan's first instinct is like to go to Kyle and Kyle will like solve all his problems. Like, that's so amazing. I love it.
I do remember one thing I have to say about this episode. And it's one of the very rare times where Cartman's actually, like, right about
oh, yeah, the Jew gold.
Anti-Semitism and everything, like, the Jew gold thing. Like, that's pretty rare, but it's, like, it's kind of funny the way they did it. It's like,
no, yeah,
you
I agree.
don't expect it. You're like, oh.
Because you totally think Cartman's full of shit, so it's such a surprise when Kyle actually has the Jew gold.
Oh, like, that's so funny. Like, I get excited for that little twist whenever I watch it.
Me too.
I'm like, God, that was really smart. Like, that's really funny. If they did that all the time, it would get really boring, but because they've only done it, like, once and maybe one other time, it's really funny.
I agree.
Okay, now we're halfway done. We're halfway done. We're almost there. Living on a prayer.
We're gonna get fucking sued, Shirley.
Where's the fair use? Come on. We'll go on to Marjorine.
Aired October 26, 2005.
Butters fakes his own death so that he can pose as a girl named Marjorine and steal a paper fortune teller.
Oh my god, okay, the best part of this episode that makes me lose my shit every single time is like right after Butters kills himself and they're in class and Mrs. Garrison's like, I know we're still all in deep mourning about classmate Butters, and some girl's just like, who's Butters? Oh my god, I can't.
Oh, that's like really funny. I always forgot about that. I totally thought you were gonna talk about Butters as Marjorine saying like, I like ponies.
Oh yeah.
And dress up and getting my snooch pounded on Friday night.
And then Mrs. Garrison's like, oh, women here like that, but we keep it to ourselves, Marjorine.
That's really funny.
This is such a funny episode.
Yeah, see, I read, like, a lot of people don't like this episode, and I guess, like, it's kind of like a Butters torture porn at some points, but, like, it's not the entire episode, you know? It's not just him getting tortured. Like, he gets really excited and happy, and, you know, while he's kind of, like, in the group with the girls.
I like the part where he's, like, dancing with the girls, and the boys, like, peeking and watching, they're like, Butters, what?
No, I was super thrilled. I'm like, you go, Butters. You go be happy, you know?
I also heard that Matt and Trey don't like this episode that much either because they think there's like too much going on, and I like totally disagree because there's only really two storylines here, and that's not too many at all, and they both like work really well together, and it ties together at the end. So Matt and Trey don't know what they're talking about.
See, these are the same guys who, I'm like, if you want to talk about too much going on, go back and look at season 19 and 20, and
right.
Tell me about too much going on again, please. Educate me about too much going on in this episode.
Yeah, but no, this episode's so funny. I think it's so funny because what?
I like this episode a lot. Continue.
Me too. And I was gonna say that I like this episode so much because you and I talked about this during the proper condom use one too. Where like the episode where the kids are just acting like little kids and they have all these misunderstandings and they don't get adult things still, even though they do all this crazy shit. But like they're just being little kids and it's so funny because of that. And it's just I don't know, it's so like authentic. I love it.
Oh yeah, and I really like this episode because this was me in like 3rd and 4th grade. Like all my friends. Like, at this age, specifically, we were all making those little fortune tellers.
Me too, yeah, I remember that.
But we weren't even doing, like, girly shit with them. Like, we would, I remember, this is morbid. I was only, like, 9 when I did this, but I made one of, like, how you're gonna die. And I was like,
wow.
Shot in the head by your best friend. And I'm like, you get electrocuted on your wedding day or something, like, just super morbid.
Jesus, Shirley.
Result.
And you're like Cartman, like when Cartman's first question was like, is Kyle gonna die before he's 20?
Exactly.
Shirley is Cartman.
But, what's so sort of pathetic? Like, it took me, like, 2 times watching this episode before I realized why Marjorine is a funny, I didn't realize it was a pun. Like,
wait.
Margarine.
Oh, no, yeah, okay.
Margarine? Did you not know that?
No, I did, but I thought you were gonna, like, say something else about it, but then you didn't. I was like, oh, okay, I already knew that.
Yeah, it's kind of sad it took me that long to realize. I'm like, why is he named Marjorine? I don't get it. Like, oh, it's Margarine. Okay.
And also the fact that, like, Margarine is, like, fake butter, and Butters is being a fake girl.
I love it whenever they use, like, his name. Like, in the last of the Mexicans, he was Mantequilla, which is just butters, which is butter in Spanish. Like, that's so funny. I love it. I love it whenever they, like, do wordplay on his name and everything.
Alright, let's go on to my favorite episode of the season.
Follow that egg!
Aired November 2nd, 2005.
The children in Miss Garrison's class are paired up to practice their parenting skills by taking care of eggs. Miss Garrison realizes she still has feelings for Mr. Slave, who plans to marry Big Gay Al as soon as the governor signs the same-sex marriage bill. Mrs. Garrison, brokenhearted, tries to stop the gay marriage bill from passing. It's so weird, like, how this, like, we had that terrible mess of a transphobic episode, like, at the beginning, and then we have this episode, which is so, like, pro-gay and, like, pro-gay rights. And
it's also really weird, especially because, like, like I said, like, the first episode was such a mess, but, like, in this episode, like, Mrs. Garrison is actually really, really funny in it. Like, I love the fact that she's, like, well, she's a woman now, but she's so, like, has so much self-hatred, and she's just screaming, and she's like, you can't get married, you're faggots. Like, that made me laugh so hard.
I love it when she's, like, she, like,
fag drag.
tie all the gay people up, and she gets kind of upset, like, because nobody else is on board. She's like, but fag drag? That's really funny.
And they're like, no.
It's sad, but I live in a town where it's like, yeah, let's do that.
Right. Oh, okay. Important landmark. This is the second episode where Stan and Kyle are gay dads together.
For real. The Jeffersons.
And now this one.
Then this one. They're meant to be gay dads, right?
I think Stan, because we always talk about Stan's ego, and it kind of shows up again in this episode. Because I love his, like, he's so petty and jealous, and I love when he, like, rips on Kyle's hat. Like, for just no reason.
In fact, it's the finest hat I've ever known. Like, that's so, like, that's the gayest line.
I know, like, this episode's some gay shit, not gonna lie.
Oh my gosh, like, this is,
Okay, speaking of gay shit, Mr. Slave and Big Al are like the cutest couple ever.
They are the cutest couple. Like, forget all the other, like, gay power couples, like, they're the best gay
Who the
power.
fuck are Tweak and Craig, right?
Oh my gosh. They're like the mentors for Tweak and Craig.
Right, right.
But, yeah, I had something else to say about this. Hold on. I really like, the point about this where it's like, about raising children and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, I know so many people who have made the argument, and it's like, well, you know, children need a mother and a father in their life. I'm like, is that why you've had 3 divorces and aren't married anymore,
Right,
Phyllis?
right.
Is that why your kids don't know who their dad is? Like,
Exactly.
Excuse you?
Yeah, what about like dads who run out on their kids, or like parents who die? Like, those kids just fuck now.
And there are so many kids like in foster care, so many kids that can be adopted.
Right, and even just
everything.
those kids who, like, their families who die and they live with, like, their grandparents or their aunts. Like, it doesn't have to be your specific parent. It just needs to be people who care about you, no matter what gender.
Exactly. And it's just like, well, gays just can't. They can't have 2 children. Like, they can't have children, and you know, that's just weird. It's like two dads. Like, that's. I'm like, why is that any weirder than having like one parent or having your grandparents? Like, why?
Yeah.
Are you really, like, so homophobic that you're, like, denying a child who has nowhere else to go, like, a right to parents who are gonna love them and who want them?
And, like, just because you think it's weird for, like, gay people to have kids doesn't mean they are unable to, you know? And kind of steering it back to the episode, I love how Stan and Kyle were, like, so involved in, like, the gay marriage plot, and they, like, didn't even know it. Like, at the end, it's like, all that shit's going down, they're like, wait, what?
And, you know, it's so funny, like, they only care about Stan and Kyle. They don't care about, Wendy and Bebe, like, 2
I know.
women and everything. And it kind of reminds me of, like, the scene where, like, well, who cares about fucking dykes? Like,
yeah, right.
Like, I'm like, God damn, really?
I know, I was like, oh, alright.
I think we should move on to Ginger Kids. I love this episode.
Me too. Aired November 9th, 2005.
Stan and Kyle turn Cartman redheaded and pale after Cartman does a report on how dangerous redheaded children are, but the prank goes too far when Cartman leaves the Gingers to fight for their rights by any means necessary. Okay, see, this episode's popularity skyrocketed after, like, years actually after it had aired because of, that one video of the freaking ginger guy who was in his backyard and everything, holding a camera and just, like, pisses me off. Gingers do have souls.
Yeah, like, screaming about South Park and about how Matt and Trey are gonna go to hell and stuff. I remember that video was so popular when I was in middle school.
See, okay, it became so popular that Matt and Trey actually saw it, and they did a word-for-word parody. Like, it promoted, like, the...
Yeah, it was like Cartman dressed up as a ginger, right?
Huh?
It was Cartman, like,
Cartman
dressed up,
as a ginger. And it was just word for word, like, shot for shot of this guy's, like, rant video, and it is so funny. Oh my gosh, I love it. But yeah, it actually, like, and because of that, like, this episode's popularity skyrocketed, when I think it was, like, middle school or 9th grade or something, and, my teacher had, like, this stereotypes worksheet and everything we were supposed to fill out, and it was, like, a stereotype, like, people with blank are blank, and, so she was, like, asking the class, like, okay, so people with red hair, and everybody, like, collectively shouted, like, don't have souls, and she was, like, she's like, the answer is actually have bad tempers, but I don't know where you guys got that. We're like, South Park. But, this episode is so funny.
Mm-hmm.
I always forget about this one, but
This
it's
episode kind of has a landmark. I could be wrong, but I think this is the first time Cartman uses the airport Hilton conference room, which kind of becomes his go-to spot, or is it not?
Well, maybe it is. I don't remember.
Because I can't remember him using it before this point, because I know he uses it a lot after this.
I know he used it a lot after this, but I think he's done it before. I feel like he's had it before.
I mean, I could be wrong, I just don't remember.
I love, like, that's such an obscure sort of running gag is the airport Hilton. Like, everybody knows, like, oh my god, you killed Kenny, but real fans know airport Hilton.
I love that joke that Trey makes about himself with the whole ginger gene thing. Where he's like, I know a man marrying a Japanese woman for that very reason, because like Japanese women like don't have the gene. And Trey was talking about himself.
That was when he was married to Emma Sugiyama or something. I can't remember her last name, but yeah, I guess I'm ready to move on.
I'm not. I got a lot to say about this one.
Hurry it up.
Oh my god. Alright, I noticed... Ugh, I don't know how to say this, but I noticed that this episode did a really good job of making, like, discrimination against gingers as, like, a really good allegory for, like, racism. And Matt and Trey kind of talked about this in their, like, commentary meeting, because I listened to it, about how, like, ginger people, like, want minority status to be able to say, like, if they get made fun of, they can sue you or whatever. And I noticed a lot of similarities between that. Like, they have, like, the ginger separatist movement. They have them chanting red power in the playground. And then they have the whole Annie thing where they're mad, where it's, like, it's basically about, like, blackface, but it's, like, ginger face. I don't know what you want to say. But watching it, I was noticing all those little checkpoints. I'm like, oh, okay.
See, okay, but I kind of love that. I'm like, I feel like some people are probably, like, serious, like, yeah, it should be like that. I'm like, I don't really recall in my history books any gingers being enslaved. You know?
Right.
Hold on a second. But yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's pretty funny. Like, I don't think it's like super as heavy prominent, like driving that message in, but it's like,
yeah, but if you pay attention, it's there.
Perfectly kind of parallel, you know, to the.
And this is I love Kyle in this episode, because he's so Kyle, and I love him. And I love the beginning
where
he's
knocking him out. That's my favorite.
Yeah. But I love like the part. Yeah, I love when Cartman is presenting and Kyle like keeps interrupting or whatever, and he's getting in trouble, and he's like, "No, you don't know what like this kind of ignorance, how harmful it can be." And I'm like, Kyle is so right. Why is he always right? Like, Kyle's like my hero. I love him.
Oh, I love him so much.
All right, now we can go on.
Yeah, now we can go on. God, Rachel, you had to be such a rambler. Anyway, let's go on to Trapped in the Closet.
Aired November 16th, 2005.
Stan is dubbed the reincarnation of L. Ron Hubbard by a local group of Scientologists, causing a chain of bizarre events such as Tom Cruise and John Travolta locking themselves in Stan's closet, and R&B singer R. Kelly turning the whole affair into an urban opera. In 2009, TV Guide ranked this episode number 17 on list of the 100 greatest episodes. Okay?
Okay, thanks Wikipedia, whatever.
With the episode, but I guess that's my fun fact for this.
Fucking Wikipedia. Okay, like John Travolta and Tom Cruise and like R. Kelly were so funny in this episode.
Oh my gosh, see, I totally forgot, like, in my head, like, season 9 is like, oh, that's fairly recent, like, I think of season 9, I'm like, that's really recent, then I realized, oh my gosh, that's when Trapped in the Closet was really popular. That was over 10 years ago.
That was so long ago.
Is old as fuck. Oh, but, I like this episode a lot because, like, I'm kind of like a pro, like, religion or pro, if you want to have a religion, that's awesome. If you don't, go for it. But with this one, I'm like, God damn, it really is just a scam. Like, make people pay to be a part of your religion, then you're just not really a religion anymore. Like, what? So, yeah, I'm not hating on anybody who's a Scientologist, but I'm still kind of like, what the fuck, man? Come on.
Right. This is South Park's famous Scientology episode, and this is the one that, like, Tom Cruise wanted to get taken off the air.
Actually.
Yeah, for real. And this is supposedly the episode that made Isaac Hayes, who played Chef, quit, but there's a rumor is that Scientology, like, forced him to do it. And then I like this episode a lot, not just because it's funny, but because this episode of South Park, because the show is so popular, was what really got people looking in Scientology's direction and realizing kind of how sinister it is. And that, like, literally this episode is why people are uncovering shit about it, because it's so popular and it made everyone, like, kind of wake up and pay attention. Like, this episode's really funny, but it also kind of, like, did a good thing, too.
Yeah, like, honestly, without this episode, I don't think I would have known what Scientology actually was, because, like, you know, it's kind of non-existent here. Like, we're just surrounded by Baptists and Mormons here.
Mm-hmm.
Not really Mormons, not a lot of Mormons down here, just crazy Baptists. But, like, without this episode, I probably would have no idea. I would have heard, like, the term Scientology, but I would have had, like, no idea what it is without, like, a Google search. And this episode really introduced me and a lot of people to Scientology. Like, I heard, like, this, like, someone, like, whose family is, like, really big into Scientology and everything, like the daughter of someone, like, watched this episode and left the church because of it. Like,
oh, nice.
Like, oh, wait, that's really what we're doing? Like, that's really what this is? And
I heard that after this episode aired, I don't know if this is true, I kind of hope it is, like, the Church of Scientology was, like, so pissed off that they tried to, like, dig up dirt on Matt and Trey and try to, like, ruin them, but they were, like, they didn't find anything because they're, like, Matt and Trey are so normal.
They are. They're just regular dudes, you know, with families and all that. Like, they tried to dig up dirt on them, and there was literally nothing. They, like, Scientology, like, it's kind of fucked up because they're really known to do that. They're super known to sue people. Like, that's the reason why at the end of this episode,
yeah, he's like, Stan's like, sue me, I don't care.
See, to keep their staff safe and everything, everybody was credited as John Doe or Jane Doe. Yeah. Like, that's, and to me, I'm like, that's really cool. You know, that's, like, I don't think it's, like, a puss out or anything. I think that's just funny. Yeah, that's just, right. They're kind of saying, like, they're kind of making fun of Scientology, like, again. Be like, yeah, we're gonna do this because you guys are all crazy and controlling and you're gonna try to sue me. For real, but again, not trying to hate. Alright, maybe we should talk less about Scientology and more about the episode. This is a good Stan episode. I think he was really funny in this one. Oh, yeah, Stan. I think that's really cool. It also kind of, like, has to do with his ego and everything, but it kind of, like, his conscience trials. I don't see ego as much, because he didn't really let it go to his head when he was, like, the prophet or whatever, which is kind of surprising. But I did like that is really surprising. He very easily was like, no, I can't do this, like, I'm gonna lie to all these people, and he, like, was like, no, that's not right, and I was really proud of him. I love Stan too. I do really like Stan in this episode. I kind of like how he doesn't let his, like, ego get the best of him. He's like really, you know, as soon as he finds out the truth, he's, like, totally against it. He doesn't, like, struggle with it a lot, you know? He doesn't really struggle with it. He knows it's kind of wrong. Yeah. Unlike Kyle in Crack Baby Athletic Association. Right. Yeah, that's kind of a good comparison, because in both instances, Stan and Kyle both had a lot to gain from this shady thing, and Stan almost immediately, he was like, no, I kind of can't do this, like, right away, but Kyle was like, oh, okay, well, maybe. Which is so weird, because I totally, in my head, like, I totally think their roles would be, like, reversed and everything. I don't know, because, I mean, I do love Kyle, and I love how he always, like, is like, oh, I'm so right, and he's gonna, like, fight for what's right and everything. I guess there are instances, like, when Kyle's back is against the wall, like, when he's gonna get in trouble with his mom, like, he totally flips. He's like, I don't care. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah, you're right about that. You're right. Alright, wanna go on? We've talked about this too much. Yeah, we've talked about that. I will add more about that, like, later, but with the last episode. And we'll move on to Free Willzyx. Aired November 30th, 2005. Two aquarium workers trick the boys into thinking that a killer whale can talk, prompting the boys to liberate the animal and send him into space. This is not one of my favorite episodes. I can still watch it and kind of, like, enjoy it, but I don't get eager to watch this. I will usually pass it. Yeah, I don't know why, though. I like this one. Yeah, I like this one. I like it better than Wing, honestly. What's that? Let's see. I love the two guys that, like, worked at the sea park or whatever, who would like, pretend that the whale talks to people. They kind of reminded me of Beavis and Butthead. Yeah, kind of. I'm glad you said that. My favorite part about this episode, and sometimes I forget it comes from this episode. Oh, but, the sketch? The realistic drawings, the realistic sketches, which is so cool. I actually think that Stan and Kyle are based off of, like, Matt and Trey. Like, I honestly do see a lot of Trey's face in Stan's sketch, and I see a lot of Matt's face in Matt's. I love how fat Cartman is. In Kyle. much. Like, I don't know, it may just be me, but it's so funny because apparently all of the artists and everything were, like, arguing. It's like, no, Stan wouldn't have that nose, and Kenny doesn't have those eyes. Like, but I feel Cartman looks so eerily, like, exactly like his cartoon.
I know.
Like, it looks realistic, but I'm like, oh my god, it's
He's
exactly,
so fat.
why does it look exactly the same, you know? But that, to me, that's the best part of this episode. Kind of a bad drawing, though.
Yeah, right. I'm gonna go into full on like South Park mom mode right now. Talking about the part where like Kyle, he's like, oh, everyone's leaving, let's go up to the well so we can study it. And I'm like, oh my god, he's so cute. I can't deal.
I love this episode because honestly, I think the boys are so cute in this episode. Like they're so cute and naive, and as much as I love it when they're like hardcore, like being goofy and getting into really raw shit and getting fucked over sometimes. Like, I love it when they're just cute.
Yeah, and they just take a stand, you know.
So cute and naive. I still don't really like this episode that much. I don't know why. Like, it's just not my favorite. But I kind of like the boys' attitudes in it, and I don't know. I think that's really cute. Mm-hmm. It's really weird though that Stan isn't in Kyle's place.
I was just gonna say that.
So they wouldn't like keep doing Stan all the time.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, okay, if they could do this episode over, I totally think Stan would be the one.
I totally agree. I was just gonna say, I think it's so weird to see Kyle like all revved up about saving an animal instead of Stan, because that's always been Stan's thing. And I don't know, like, I don't want to say it's out of character for Kyle, because I don't think it is.
Yeah,
but I do think that if it had been switched, he still would have believed that it talked and wanted to do the right thing and everything. But I don't know. It just feels weird to have Kyle be the star of this episode. I don't know why they did that.
Oh, I know why they did it. I think they didn't want to like overexpose Stan because they just had the trapped in the closet episode and all that.
True.
I feel like they wanted to keep it like a balance, but
yeah, but like you can never have too many Stan episodes.
If they redid this episode, Stan would be in Kyle's place instead,
right.
Because I can totally believe Kyle in this situation. Like,
yeah,
I can
me
totally
too.
believe it. It's still believable, but like me being a crazy fan,
it's
like,
just
this
more.
Is really more Stan's MO. This is really more like Stan. Anyway, let's move on to the last episode. God, we talk so much. Bloody Mary.
Aired December 7th, 2005.
Randy's drinking problem is mistaken for a disease when he admits himself into Alcoholics Anonymous, following an arrest for drunk driving. At first, he feels hopeless, but then a priest in a neighboring town discovers that his Virgin Mary statue is bleeding from its anus and declares it a miracle, making Randy want to go out there to be cured. So, I have so much to say about it. First, I'll start off, I'm like, this episode actually, technically, sparked the controversy with the Trapped in the Closet being pulled. Not like the controversy itself, but this episode, because it was so close to Christmas time, a lot of Catholics like wanted it pulled. And Matt and Trey were like, it is kind of the Virgin Mary shitting blood on his face. Like, it's close to Christmas, whatever. We don't mind if you pull it like for this once. Like, and it wasn't even on the episode had already been released. It was just scheduled to be like aired again, like really close to Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, yeah, go ahead, air something different. And then Scientologists found out about that episode and wanted the Trapped in the Closet to be pulled from its air date. So that's what started.
Man, Trey kind of fucked themselves, didn't they?
Yeah. Which I love how like they're kind of like with Catholics and everything, they're like, yeah, okay, but with Scientologists, it's like, okay, no, fuck that.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Scientologists did make a bigger deal out of it.
Yeah.
Though, so.
Yeah, this episode's really funny, especially with the whole Randy thing. I do think they did a good job with Randy again. And I loved the message kind of up until the end, because I do agree that I don't think that alcoholism is a disease, per se.
Yeah,
I think it's an addiction, and addictions do, like, have to do with, like, your chemicals in your body, and you sometimes can't help it. It's an addiction, not a disease. But I loved how ridiculous they were making Randy look, trying to be like, I'm sick, or like, no, you're not. But I didn't like, kind of at the end, where Stan's like, oh, you can just have a few beers and it's fine. I'm like, okay, I get what you're trying to say, but I know from experience that alcoholics cannot just have a few drinks. They can't have discipline.
Yeah, for some people, yeah, I don't. That's the only part of this episode that I kind of disagree.
Same.
with.
I love everything else.
That's the only other thing because I'm really passionate about. I get really heated when people call like an addiction a disease, and trust me, I'm not saying like addiction isn't a hard thing. Like, no, addiction's an awful thing. You deserve support with it. It's something that maybe you can't necessarily. You need help with it, but at the end of the day, like with drugs, with alcohol, like it is something that you physically can stop yourself from doing.
Yeah.
You can stop it. It just takes a lot of willpower. And you know what? All power to you if you're able to do that. That's amazing. I know a lot of people don't have that self-control or need help. Like, it's something that definitely needs help. But with a disease, an actual disease, like my mom had cancer when I was little.
Yeah.
My mom did not do things to give herself cancer. Like, my mom is like, well, you know, I could have a few more, like, I can develop, you know, just a few more tumors, you know, I'll just develop a few more tumors in the breast. Like, no, fuck that. Like, I get so angry. Like, there's this one girl I got into, like, a fight with her, and, like, I'm not saying addiction's not a struggle. Like, it is a struggle. It is something that people should be proud of when they can overcome. But I hate it when it's called a disease. Like, I hate that so much.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. I do. It's kind of, like, touchy because, like, I don't have an addiction. I never have. And it's kind of, I don't want to, like, undermine their struggles. I do think addiction is, like, a really, really tough battle, but it's not a disease. And, like, I think people, I don't like people saying it's a disease because I think they just want to remove all responsibility, like Randy in this episode, and say, I can't help it, and they just want to get away with doing shitty things and be like, I can't help it, I have a disease, and you really don't. Like, sometimes they can't help themselves, but, like, you are choosing to do it still, so.
Yeah, exactly. See, trust me, like, I'm agree with exactly what you're saying. Like, it's a struggle. All power to, I know it's like some people feel like they really can't control it. Some people have impulse and they slip. Like, that's a normal thing. But the only thing I hate is like when it's called a disease. Like, separate addiction, the term addiction, from disease. They're not the same thing.
Right.
They will never be the same thing. Stop comparing the two.
Yeah.
Like, totally different things going on. Like exactly what you were saying. Like, with Randy and everything, he's just like, I'm powerless to it. I'm powerless, you know. I can't control. It's like, yes, you can. It's a struggle, but you can do it, you know. Right. So, I really like this episode because I'm like, oh my God, thank God. Just because it's, you know, it's like you're really not powerless to it, you know. That it's kind of like trying to remove all the blame from yourself and everything.
Yeah. Alright, let's go back to Randy. I think I actually really, really love Randy in this episode. I think he's so fun. I love the part at the beginning where he's, like, driving in the car, and he's like, Stan, hold the wheel and shit. And he's like,
well, he feels like a piece of the bottle.
He's like, why do you think our penises look like hoses? Come on, just do it, Stan.
That's actually based on, like, a true story with Trey when he was little. Like, his dad was drinking, like, driving up to Conifer or something, and he peed in a bottle and had Trey hold it, like, the entire way.
Ew.
I'm like, yeah, now I can really see the Randy, and I can see, like, where Trey gets the Randy inspiration.
Right, yep.
Dude, now it's just Trey being Randy.
I also love the line the little exchange at the end between Stan and Randy, where Randy's like, oh, how did I get to raise such a smart kid? And then Stan's like, oh, I had a great teacher, and he's like, thanks. And Stan's like, no, I meant, like, my karate teacher. He's really smart. And Randy's like, oh.
I do kind of love, like, them walking off into the sunset and everything with, like, Stan on his shoulders. I'm like, that's really wholesome. Like, there's no joke to it at all. It's just, like, it's just a really wholesome moment. Like, there's no forced-in joke. It's just them being cute, you know? Like, I love it when they do that. I love when they just decide to be adorable with no, like, reason behind it, just to be adorable.
Yeah, I agree. All right, good season.
Yeah, a very good season, except for the episode that must not be named.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you guys for listening. Gosh, yes. I feel like a mess, but I still have fun doing these.
Me
like,
too.
all the time.
This was a great way to kick off the new year. We would love it if you.
Great way to kick off.
fuck off. Anyway, we would love it if you would comment or subscribe or just tell us if you want to be in the show or give us questions or anything. We'd love to hear from our two fans.
We love the questions.
Yes.
And yeah, keep on listening and we'll keep on talking.
That's right. All right. We'll be back in 2 weeks with our season 10 podcast, and we have a special guest that week. My friend Amy is going to be on the show.
Awesome. So we're super excited. So if you want to be on the show like Amy, please message us Tumblr, on YouTube. Like, give us a comment, and we'd love to have you on. Thanks again for watching, and I'm going to say goodbye.
Goodbye.